All right, let's get ready for this one. So, apparently, not allegedly, YouTuber Angry Centaur Gaming has alleged, well, not even alleged, has outright said that the Game Award show, hosted by Jeff Keighley, is corrupted. Recently, he was on the On Live podcast, um, or Game On, I'm sorry, Game On Daily podcast, and he made that accusation that the Game Awards is corrupt due to the lack of transparency. So let's get into that. While he was talking on the podcast, he mentioned a few things. One, his primary concern is the lack of transparency. His first complaint, he doesn't the process of how the Game Awards is formulated. Nobody really knows. Two, why is the Game Awards shown on in December on a certain day? Doesn't know. Why isn't it in January, February? Isn't know. And the people who vote, what's the criteria, how it's selected, plenty oblivious. Now the funny thing is, none of those things lead to corruption. Now you can argue you don't like the process, but in my opinion, you fundamentally didn't try to research the process, because on the website they give you the basic outline of how the Game Awards is processed. They even tell you who exactly are like the executive members who organize the show. Let's get a couple of things down on the first point. The first point: how is the show formulated? Well, I'm pretty sure there's contracts, there's deals. They have it at the Microsoft Theater. It's streamed on Twitch, YouTube. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of conversations with a lot of platform holders. Who's the guest? Who's invited as the guest? What products are going to be promoted? Commercials, advertisements. I'm sure that's all worked out, and I'm pretty sure no gamer really cares about any of that stuff. None of that information is going to make the nominees or the choice of nominees even better. So how the stuff is formulated is irrelevant. It's not going to make the thing better. Now, it would make it better for you as a big YouTuber, because that's just content for your channel and stuff. That's just conversation. And my point with that is going to be leading towards the end. Why is it held on December? Who gives a damn? What? So because the award show is held on a Thursday in December, that is leading to corruption? No. For whatever reason they chose in December, that's why he chose it for. There's nothing wrong with that. And we don't need a detailed examination or a 100-page thesis behind why, every Thursday on December they chose to have the Game Awards show. That's why he chose it. Maybe, he has other stuff. Maybe, based on the allocation of time and other projects. Remember, he also does Summer Game Fest and all that stuff. He's trying to space out all the responsibilities. Maybe his coordination with the rest of the industry. There could be a slew of reasons. Again, lack of transparency on the process of how he builds the Game Awards show doesn't lead to corruption at all. He even made the point saying, why not 24 hours later? They can't even explain that. That point is just childish. So the Game Awards is held on Thursday. Why not on Friday? I don't know. What do you want Jeff Keighley or any of the members to say? That they go to the strip club on Friday and they make it rain, so that's why they have the show on Thursday? I don't understand what any of the complaint is, right? Last point, all right, before I move on to my overall point on this whole thing, is complaining about who are the voters. That he even spoke that if he knew Gene Park, he used that as an example, then he will understand from Gene Park's perspective. So these guys want to know who the voters are, which I think is a terrible idea. Here's the reality, and I'm going to say the so what to all this nonsense. ACG, big YouTuber, he understands a couple of things. He understands metrics. He understands motivation, and listening to that podcast and listening to him speak on this particular topic, it's all self-interest. Don't give me this nonsense. It's about the gamers or it's about the community. No, right off the bat, he mentioned directly off the bat, I don't know any of the voter members, as if you're supposed to, right? He constantly tried to put his 2 cents on how, something to the effect of him being part of the process or YouTube content creators being a process. He even mentioned, on Open Critic, they now let YouTubers, upload the stuff and we count. So my stuff counts. It's clear he's advocating for himself. I don't think Gaz and Asa and everybody else noticed that. He's pitching in primarily for himself. Sure, it's going to be under the guise of YouTube content creators, but they want in. They want in on Jeff Keighley's process. They want to be part of it. Whether it's voting members, they want in. This has nothing to do with the gaming members, all right? What I'm about to teach you guys is for the gaming members, for you fundamentally understand. The Game Award show is not that hard, all right? Multiple award shows, whether it's the Emmys or, you know, the Grammys or whatever, they all have time slots of when, you know, certain songs or certain movies, whatever, are part of the popular list for nominations. Some are like from March to like September. It's all these weird dates, right? Rarely do you have an award show, if any, that's actually January 1st to December 31st. Those are the population nominees. I don't think even one exists. If there is, I don't know what it is. But it's certainly not the Grammys, the Emmys, the Oscars. They don't do that. BAFTA, they don't have that. It's usually within a given window, is in a time frame. The reason why it's in a time frame is for probably multiple reasons. When's the best time to have this award show? The most opportune time for, you know, advertisements. Does it conflict with other award shows? There's a whole slew of operational planning and logistics planning to get an award show going. You know, when's the opportune time to get the most, you know, creators out there or artists and stuff like that? There's a whole slew of things, all right? It's not nearly willing, all right? As far as the Game Award shows, it doesn't even really matter why Jeff Keighley and whoever executive members, all the people that, because I'm pretty sure it's not all by himself, all the people that's part of this process, a lot of powerful people, a lot of people with some level of influence. There's probably a reason why they hold it in December. It could be a multitude of reasons, right? But that doesn't impact, you know, generally on what games are qualified or whatever, right? Because no matter what, if a game doesn't get qualified for that particular year because of a cutoff, then it will be moved to the following year, all right? All it comes down to is the vote. And this simple concept is what blowing a certain community's mind. Because make no mistake, people are trying to make this about, oh, we're having this conversation because all gamers. No. Stop. No. Because generally the PlayStation gamers aren't having issues. Nintendo gamers aren't having issues. PC gamers having issues from a perspective of corruption. Now, sure, every community is questioning the taste and the opinions of the voters. But that's just life. That's always going to happen. If there's ever going to be a reasonable expectation where everybody generally agrees, that's probably not going to likely happen. Especially when the Game Awards uses over 100 plus voters to submit nominations, to which I will explain how it's done. That level of agreement is not going to happen. Somebody is going to complain. Somebody's not going to like the list. Period. Oh well, it's an opinion. But how is this summed up? How does it get to this point? Well, we'll use the Game of the Year category, but this is pretty much spread through all categories, all right? Over 100 something plus voters are selected in secret. Even the executive members of the Game Award show don't even know who they are and what they vote for, all right? It is done by design. That way, no executive member or powerful people in industry can influence voters. So there is no influence. It's to protect the voters so that way they're not influenced by someone of higher authority. So that way people like, I'll give you a hint, Phil Spencer, who's an executive member. Members from Sony are on there. Many across the industry, across various platforms, from third party to platform holders, are the executive members. To protect the voters, none of the executive members have any idea who's voting, what votes, nothing. Okay? On the flip side, none of the voting members can contact anybody, whatever, or use their influence to say, hey, you know, if you send me a free Xbox, I'll make sure Pentiment is not. No, none of that. So the secret ballot is actually the fair ballot. To actually ask for transparency on who these guys are, it will only lead to disaster. What do you honestly think is going to happen? You think we're going to have a nice, quiet, calm conversation? No. Right? Now, I'm sure some podcast members, like, you know, ACG, would love the opportunity to create more content channel to talk to them. But the reality is they will be flooded by fanboys across all platforms. They will be harassed. The social media accounts will be attacked. People will go after their place of employment, after their families. It will be absolute nonsense simply because a certain game was not nominated for a certain category. And in the end, for what? It's just an opinion. So nothing good will come out from voters who are transparent or us knowing who the voters are. It's better for secret ballot because at the end of the day, even in the best case scenario where we just sit down and have a conversation while they voted, what is still going to happen? It's going to end up best case scenario, you understand and then agree why they chose. Or worst case scenario, you don't understand, but guess what? The choice has still been made. You're just gonna have to suck it up and deal with it. You're just gonna have to agree to disagree. So no matter what, the choices are not gonna change. You know, if we find out the list of voters and they get harassed, all that's going to cause is for these voters to not participate. Because why the hell would they want to go through harassment and gamer nonsense from all these fanboys who just so emotional just because their game is not nominated? Sure, you can disagree with the list. Have your comments against this. Like me, I feel Returnal got ripped off. But I'm not going out there talking about corruption. Like, who's gaining what corruption? Who's gaining from corruption? What? Like there's racketeering? You know, Al Capone's up in here? What are you guys talking about? Okay? Now, to fundamentally understand the process, because 90% of you who are crying about this didn't even bother to go on the Game Awards website and actually learn how did this work. And astonishingly, it's all there. But I'm going to break it down for you real easy. Over 100 voters are selected, to participate, okay? We're going to use the number 125 to make it simple, right? So, just assumption. 125 for the sake of argument and discussion. 125 members are there. Each individual voter is tasked to nominate 5 nominations per category. So we're just going to speak on the Game of the Year category for now, right? Because there's a whole bunch of categories. So in the Game of the Year category, they'll be told, hey, select who you think are your top 5 games for Game of the Year. You, voter number 1. Voter number 2. Voter number 3, all the way up to voter 125. They don't discuss it amongst each other. They don't sit down on a round table. No. Number 1, this is my 5, submit. Number 2, these are my 5, submit. 3, 4, 5, 6, they all simply submit. Obviously, they have a parameters of which games are eligible, and that's just between the date range. Not a hard concept. I don't know why gamers or some gamers have an issue with this, but it is what it is. So, boom, they got it. They submit their 5. All 125 submissions are then tabulated. Once it's all tabulated, the number 1 game that got the most nominations across the 125, that's the first spot. The second highest, that's the second spot. The third highest, that's the third spot. The fourth highest, that's the fourth spot. The fifth highest, that's the fifth spot. In the event there is a tie, then they just add, another spot. So let's say if the fifth spot had 2 games with the same exact amount of total nominations across the 125, then you got the 5th and you got the 6th spot. Okay? Now, what does that mean? Use your brain here. There are probably voters who did say, I'll use example, Pentiment. There's a huge complaint. Oh, why Pentiment didn't get a nomination? Oh my God, corruption. No. There are probably voters that did pick Pentiment as one of their 5. There's probably voters, in my view, Sifu. They probably picked Sifu. There's probably voters who wrote down, Sifu. Sifu's one of my 5 gaining years. Obviously, you could probably guess majority of them probably put down God of War, Elden Ring, and Horizon Zero Dawn, and Xenoblade. Obviously, there's certain games a lot put down. But there could be a few people that put down Pentiment. There's probably a few voters that put down Cult of the Lamb, that Vampire Survivor game, Sifu. There's a whole selection of games that voters probably put down. But when it gets all tabulated, only the top 5 with the highest tabulated votes or nominations get to be part of the nomination. And in this case, the 6 that we have, those are the 6 with the highest nominations. So the number 1 out of the list, the one that's like the eye-catching game, is Stray. How did Stray get nominated and not some people use games like Dying Light? Some people said, I think Sifu's a better indie. Some people say Call of the Lamb is better indie. Some people mention a whole bunch of games. Pentiment's one of them. The reason why Stray got the nom and is part of the nomination is because out of the 125, again, I use 125 just as a placeholder, but officially the Game Awards just says over 100, but we'll use 125. Out of the 125, there is a lot of members in that group that part of their top 5, they wrote Stray. So that means they were like, oh, I like God of War, Elden Ring, Pentiment, Vampire, and Stray. Another one's like, oh, I like, Stray, Pentiment, MLB The Show, Call of Duty, and whatever. Who knows, whatever. But ultimately, there was enough from the voters that put down Stray that got the total accumulated tabulated votes. And that's why it's up there. Now, because there's 6 nominations, that means 2 of those games have the same amount of votes. I don't know which 2, but 2 of those games. It could be potentially be Xenoblade and Stray. They both could have the same amount of votes, which is why. Who knows? But every nominee on that list is a culmination of the total votes that puts it in its place ranking. So that doesn't mean that nobody out of the 125, 150, however many voters are, nobody picked Pentiment. They probably did pick the Pentiment. But maybe it was only like 20 people. That's not enough people to put it in the placeholding. That is it. It's simple. Now that there's 6 nominations, they have to go back and vote for the game of the year, but they can only pick one game out of the 6. So those same members now, if not already, have to now vote for game of the year, but they strictly can only pick the 6. So it's really 2 stages. The first stage, every member picks your 5. Every member picks 5. Their system tabulates. Based on the tabulation, these are your top 5 games. Or in this case, the top 6 games. Now they send it back to the voters, be like, hey, these are the finalists. Out of everything you all did, these were the 6 highest that got the 6 most nominations. So now out of the 6, pick your 1. So each one will pick based out of those 6. There could be voters, right, that didn't pick any of those games. Their top 5 may not have even been not a single one of those games. There's potentially out of the 100 voters that they did not pick Elden Ring, they did not pick God of War, they did not pick Xenoblade, they did not pick Stray, they did not pick any of those games. Their complete 5 list is completely different. They probably put Star Ocean, Valkyrie Elysium, Pentiment, Scorn, and Cult of the Lamb. That could be a very real possibility that one of the voters pick those as their top 5 games. But guess what? Not enough votes. Not enough noms to match to put those in placeholder. Now that one voter whose top 5 is not any of the list, that voter has to look at the 6 games and be like, all right, out of this 6 game, and this is the choice I'm left with, out of these 6 games, I would pick this game as a game of the year based on the list. And that's it. That's it. All this other nonsense about why is it in December? Like, who gives a damn? Like, that's irrelevant. All right? If your issue is just maybe something could be better, which is also opinionated, that's fine. But to call and make a claim of corruption, nah. In my opinion, that ACG dude, he was just advocating for himself. Because if you listen to him and listen to him carefully, listen to all the parts where he talks about me. I don't know. But if I'd have me. And I'm noticing that with all the big YouTubers, man. It's like the Dark Knight. You either die a hero or you live long enough to be the villain. For me, a lot of these super big YouTubers are becoming the very thing we all are criticizing with journalism. It's just the fact that they don't have that power or that, leverage into the industry. And that's what they want. They want to be part of the voting members for that. I guarantee if he was a voting member and he was a secret ballot, he would not be complaining about this at all. And I will say, if there was actual Xbox games as nominations, this conversation would not be happening. We would not be talking about this right now. The bottom line, listen, this is not an issue of corruption, whatever, okay? This is just a classic case of gamers don't agree with the voting member's opinion. But there's no corruption. It's a silly notion. There's no evidence, right? And the lack of transparency is not evidence of corruption. It's just simply a case of you being in your feels. That's it. Nothing else. Stop being in your feels. Hey, this Porter77, your only friend in these YouTube streets preaching the truth. Like and subscribe and let me know what you think. Hit up the conversation. Do you think the Game Awards is corrupt? Or are these cats in their feels? Peace.